Welcome, students. Mr. Bockel here. In this assignment, you are going to plan a roadmap for your essay. You only get 450 words for this. That's not a lot. So in order to use those words effectively, you need to know exactly what you're going to do. You need a roadmap. All right. So in this assignment, the first thing you're going to do is write your top. Well, let's actually go over to this. Remember this argument right here. This is one of the winners from last year. This is Abel John. He wrote the article about Collar the cat. And he wrote about Tom and Jerry. But then he said, unlike Tom and Jerry, cats actually most of the time catch the mice and the birds. They're very good hunters. And then he talked about one solution for this is that cat owners could put a collar, a breakaway collar around their cats' necks that are bright and visible that birds would be able to see and detect, and they'd be able to fly away before a cat got close enough. So keep that essay in mind as we write this. So when we go over to this assignment right here, I'm going to be referring to John Abel's essay frequently. And I'll provide a link to the assignment in there so you can go back and refer to it. So his topic is going to be cats and cat collars, obviously. His audience, think about that. Who really are you talking to? Yes, you're writing this for a New York Times writing contest, but even closer to that, or narrow it down further, like, who is this? Who are you writing to? Are you writing to parents? Are you writing to your peers? Are you writing to governments? Are you writing to companies? In this case, our John was writing to cat owners. He was writing to cat owners. So who is your audience? His claim was he was asking them to collar their cats. That was his claim. So how will you hook your audience? Look back at this one. He started with a pop culture allusion. It was a short, powerful sentence, pop culture allusion. He explained the premise of Tom and Jerry and how it's ultimately wrong, and then he uses that to connect it to his idea. So we started with the pop culture reference. Are you going to start with the personal story like we talked about in our last assignment? Are you going to start with somebody else's story? Are you going to start with an alarming statistic? Are you going to start with a rhetorical question? Are you going to use a metaphor? How are you going to start your essay to bring your readers in? You've got to hook them. How are you going to do it? Besides your claim, what other points do you need to make? So let's go back to Mr. Abel's essay and see the points that he had to make before he got to his claim. So the first point that he made is that cats killing birds is a real issue. So in this paragraph right here, he established the problem. So this one, it was establishing a problem, and then he was suggesting one perhaps solution. So in this paragraph, he talked about how it's a problem and how many birds each year are killed by cats and how we know that. And he did a good job at proving that. And next point that he makes are that traditional bird conservation efforts don't always counter cats' primal instincts. So he's kind of got another claim right here, or kind of a sub-claim. And then he moves on to his main point, which is put a collar around your cat, which could really help this problem. So what evidence did you use? What evidence do you need to use to persuade your audience? So go back to the evidence you've done. Remember, you only need to bring in 2 sources for your final essay. I recommend maybe 3, 4, 5, but the more sources you have, the better. Go back to your evidence. And one needs to come from the New York Times and one needs to come outside of the Times. What evidence are you going to use? So plan the evidence that you're going to actually poll. Now, think about counterclaims to your argument. What would people say to it? People will disagree with you. That's okay. What are they going to say? What are some of the traditional arguments against your idea? And what would you say to them? So list common counterclaims. How will you refute those counterclaims? And finally, how will you end your editorial? What do you want your audience to know, feel, or do because of your writing? At the end of Abel's essay, he wanted his audience, obviously, to put a collar around their cats. Like, you're writing, like you're trying to persuade people. What are you trying to persuade them to do? Are you trying to persuade them to change their mind about something, to be aware that this is an actual problem? Or do you want to go even further and to encourage your audience to change their behavior in some way? So think about what you're going to do to end this essay. What do you want your audience to do as a result of your editorial? So once you've got this planned, we're going to start writing your essays in coming days. Okay, folks, this is Mr. Bockelt. Keep reading, keep researching, keep writing, keep learning. Take care, folks.